ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. Yes, in some parts of the country, it was a very rough weekend, and all the way from Florida to the Canadian Maritimes, people are comparing stories. It isn't over for some. Campers missing in the mountains of Tennessee and North Carolina, people still unaccounted for at sea, off the U.S. and the Canadian coast, hundreds of thousands of people still without power, and as of now, from heart attacks while shoveling snow, traffic accidents, or freezing to death, 149 people are said to have died as a result of the storm.
It's also hit hard right here in Metro Detroit, as nearly 100 Cranbrook students are caught in the middle of this devastating storm.
We begin our coverage tonight in the southeast with NBC's Sarah James and the continuing drama of those who are still missing. Sarah, what's the latest?
With 2 feet of snow blanketing the ground, rescuers could only search for the missing hikers from the air. Searchers concentrated on the southern end of the Great Smoky Mountain National Forest. The Michigan students began their hike from a base camp in Cherokee, North Carolina, but they then broke up into 13 smaller groups and went in different directions.
Idea of how cold it must be in those mountains. The temperature dipped as low as 2 degrees above zero as far south as Birmingham, Alabama.
Now, just moments ago, I got the latest on the difficulties searchers were having from Bob Miller at Great Smoky Mountain National Park.
We have 3 military helicopters overflying the park, rescuing people. Anybody they see, basically, down below is hoisted out if they have to, or landing by landing if we can.
Well, Dan, late this afternoon, the hopes of parents were dashed when 2 Black Hawk military helicopters equipped with full rescue gear and medics had to be grounded, and they won't be able to go up at least until tomorrow, I'm told. Apparently, winds around the Smoky Mountains have suspended all air searches, and rescuers have to search now on the ground.
It is the worst storm in America in more than 100 years, but while most of us in Michigan managed to escape its fury, the parents, the moms and dads of some high school sophomores from the Cranbrook Kingswood School are suffering through a family nightmare. Their kids were on a wilderness trip in the Great Smoky Mountains near Asheville, North Carolina, when they were caught in a furious snowstorm with extremely cold temperatures, bitterly cold. Earlier today, we were told that more than 50 students and their teachers were still out there somewhere, missing. Late word from school officials is more of the students and teachers have now made their way to safety. A major rescue mission is now underway, complete with a helicopter search. We did get an update by phone from one of the coordinators, a man by the name of David Hyatt.
They do know the vicinity, and they are searching that. Apparently what they had is they had permits to be in specific areas, but they were not in those areas, so they apparently didn't get to those areas. So they're back further up, and they're just having to search the whole area. The conditions are pretty harsh. 0 last night here, wind chill 30 below, and in those areas it's 3 to 4 foot deep in snow right now. That's one of the things slowing them down.
Here's a breakdown of who is on this perilous adventure of a lifetime. 117 made the trip. 9 stayed at the base camp. The others broke up into 13 groups of 6 to 8 people. Those groups include 1 teacher and 1 co-leader. Co-leaders are students who have made the trip before. Also in the groups are 4 to 6 sophomore students.
In the skies over the rugged mountains of North Carolina and Tennessee, rescue teams circled and searched for stranded hikers, including those Detroit students. 8 of them were found today suffering from frostbite and taken to a Tennessee hospital. Others were plucked out of the Great Smoky Mountain National Park by helicopter.
There's new information tonight in the Smoky Mountain search. More than 100 people from Cranbrook Kingswood Upper School set out for an adventure of a lifetime in the wilderness. Little did they know it would turn into a fight for survival, caught in the worst storm many have ever seen in the Smoky Mountains. Helicopters searched the area today, and while many of the missing are accounted for, a significant number are not. At last word, 93 of the Cranbrook students and faculty had been found, but tonight 24 others are still missing and unaccounted for at this hour. 8 of the rescued are in the hospital right now, thankful to be out of the cold and in a warm shelter.
Mountain survival retreat nearly cost some of the backpackers from the Detroit area school their lives. Team leader James Woodruff arrived in serious condition, his feet frostbitten, packed in snow. The children able to walk entered the hospital pale and dazed, but alert and in stable condition. Today marked their 8th day in the Smokies.
These are the injured: 16-year-old Peter Kim of Bloomfield, 16-year-old Darya Kovalchuk of Bloomfield, 15-year-old Timothy Anthony of West Bloomfield, 17-year-old Garrett Rentrop of Franklin, 16-year-old Elizabeth Cunningham of Bloomfield, 16-year-old Bob Malloy of Bloomfield, 39-year-old James Woodruff of Bloomfield, and 16-year-old Danielle Swank of Libertyville, Illinois.
Are those kids going to have some great stories for their kids and their grandkids? For some, it was the adventure of a lifetime. For others, a terrifying, painful, life-threatening ordeal at the hands of the worst winter storm in America of this century. But this afternoon, the last of the stranded high school students from Cranbrook, Kingswood were airlifted off the Great Smoky Mountains. And now, we are happy to say all 117 members of the Cranbrook group are safely out of the national park. A number of the hikers made it out on their own, right on schedule, but the last 24, including 3 adult leaders, were spotted by helicopter crews from the Tennessee National Guard. They were flown off the North Carolina side of the mountain range. All are reported safe now by Tennessee officials. The agonizing ordeal was hardest on the parents and relatives who could do nothing but wait, hope, and a lot of praying.
To some students, this was just an adventure, but to others, it was. They were facing a life-threatening experience. Just one of the dramatic rescue stories now coming out of the Smokies today is the story of how 2 teenagers left their supplies and their backpacks behind, and they made their way slowly through waist-deep snow and icy cold rivers to get help for their friends because they could no longer keep up the pace. One of those heroic teenagers is 16-year-old Mark Penske, who is the son of the auto racing giant Roger Penske. His team leader was a feisty sophomore who had been in survival camping once before. Her parents told Channel 7's Tim Fritz that Marcy Paisley has always been a survivor.
When Marcy Paisley's group bogged down in the snow in the mountains over the weekend, she and 16-year-old Mark Penske set out to find help. They left their food and their backpacks behind for the others to use.
And they were traveling and traveling. It became dark, and at a few points they got worried, and she saw a fire across the river and figured that if there was a fire there, someone should be there, knowing that they would have to cross this river, and arrived at the fire where they found 2 fishermen who she said saved their lives.
It was Marcy Paisley who called the shots on that arduous trek. A senior at Kingswood, she'd made the trip to the Smoky Mountains before and was a team leader this time around. She says she had a job to do, and she did it. Little did Marcy know how heroic her actions would appear to be to others.
She said, if anybody's a hero, she said, it's Mr. Woodruff. And she really didn't feel that she was a hero of any type.
At least 10 students from Michigan owe their lives to 4 weekend campers from East Tennessee. 7 students and 1 teacher taken to UT Hospital on Monday were rescued after 2 of their friends wandered into a camp set up by these 4 guys. Eddie Clark, Chris LaRue, Bob Allen, and George Ash were camping near Citico Creek when they found the 2 students.
We kept hearing some kind of screeching noise, and we stood up in the direction it was coming from and kept thinking we heard help. So a couple of us took off running into the woods and got through some trees, and there was a kid standing there screaming, and you could tell the look of fear was, you know, all over their face.
They had severe hypothermia and frostbite. We treated their frostbite and hypothermia, got them in warm clothes. We fed them and put them in sleeping bags and bedded them down to heat them up and get their body temperature regulated.
The students were so cold they couldn't even feel the campfire.
I had melted my boots earlier that day, close to a foot away, and she had her feet within 4 inches and couldn't feel it. Couldn't feel the heat.
The group was taken out of the park by the National Guard, but 2 of the men went back to help the Guard locate the rest of the students. And though rescue squad personnel told these men the students faced serious complications if they'd been outside much longer, they dismiss any notion of being considered heroes.
2 kids wander in a camp freeze, and anybody would do what you can do to help them. It's no big deal. I have a son that age, and that made it easier for me to go back after him. I would want somebody to do that if my son was there.
About Saturday afternoon, about what in the name of God are we doing in here? You know, we knew it was going to snow, but not this bad. We should have stayed at home. And after the kids come out and they were all rescued, we said, well, I guess this was our purpose, you know, to be in here to help these kids.
A young girl survived those freezing conditions alone in the Smokies. Tonight, she's telling her story of courage. 15-year-old Danielle Swank is the last Michigan prep school student being treated in Knoxville, where Tracy Finley has her story.
Danielle's story begins after she and teacher, Mr. Woodruff, became separated from the rest of their group. They pushed their way through waist-deep snow and through icy creeks.
My boots, which I had gotten one off the night before, but the other one was just so frozen on I couldn't get off. Mr. Woodruff couldn't get either of his off the night before, but the one I did get off, I couldn't get back on in the morning.
It got worse. Danielle and a group leader fell behind and ended up trapped, alone, somewhere in these mountains. He went for help, leaving Danielle alone.
Well, it was just kind of dark and cold, and I was just kind of scared in general, so it was just kind of like, and the stress of just being out there by myself.
You never thought it was the end?
No, I never thought it was the end.
Rescue workers found the group leader a half-mile away, unconscious and covered in snow. Danielle survived on peanut butter, crackers, and Gatorade. She said it was so cold her clothes froze to her body and her sleeping bag wouldn't close. Suddenly, help came.
I was like waving to that. I was like, and yelling help, but, and they circled past overhead, and I didn't think they saw me. I felt very hopeless and very lost at that moment.
Now Danielle faces a second ordeal. Doctors say she could lose part of her foot.
Like, you know, I'd rather lose my foot than lose my life.
Doctors are waiting to transfer Danielle to a Chicago hospital. Her group leader, James Woodruff, remains in serious condition tonight.
While the death toll mounts, the hardship continues for many. There is a brighter note in the aftermath of the blizzard of '93. The last of the missing students from Michigan have now been rescued in the Smoky Mountains. CNN's Brian Cabell reports.
Their 10-day camping trip was scheduled to end Tuesday, and that's when it ended, only it came with a helicopter rescue. The Cranbrook school students were hoisted up into choppers to safety. They survived, they say, by erecting a lean-to that was eventually covered by 3 feet of snow.
Members of that group of Michigan school students who'd been lost are safe and back home this morning after their rescue earlier this week. Roger Weber reports on a tearful reunion.
Lost and found, from the icy wilderness in the Smoky Mountains to a warm homecoming in Michigan. Nakadar was as lost in the crowd as he was in the mountains. Then he found his dad.
Great to see him back. I tell you, we were longing for each minute to see him back here.
I have never missed anyone more in my life. I was out there, and all I wanted was Mom and Dad.
It's sheer exhilaration. I mean, you've been in the depths of despair.
Yeah. We're happy to see her.
It's just, there's
she was
nothing
so,
like it.
so well prepared. The program is terrific. She had great.
That was fun.
Your leaders were?
Yeah, leaders were great. Yeah, they really helped.
Do you feel like you really bonded with some of your friends down there?
Oh yeah, I mean, and it really helped, like, because now it's like you met people, you know, that you didn't really know before. And this whole experience is just like, I don't know, it's kind of like a personal experience, like to find your individual self. Because like when you're like out there, you know, it's like you have to like try to like find it yourself and stuff. So it's like an individual, I think, experience.
Is that the first time in your life that you had to deal with real fear?
Well, we weren't really that afraid because our like leaders like didn't really like, you know, like we didn't know that the helicopters were even looking for us. You know, it was just kind of a joke, like, hey, they're looking for us, you know? I mean, like, we never experienced real fear.
Because your leaders were...
Yeah, our leaders were really good. They
So
were well prepared.
what's the family going to do tonight?
Be happy, celebrate.
Be happy, that's for
Yeah, we're going to take her by her grandparents.
Yeah.
That's where we're headed next.
Okay, all right, thanks a lot for talking to us.
Yeah.
The students' ordeal brought them closer to each other.
Our group came together like I've never seen anything. I bonded with people I've never met before, and I've made friends for life. I'll never forget this.
They battled a blizzard. Now they savor the simple pleasures of life at home.
The bathroom.
Showers.
Electricity and heat. Bed.
Hollywood is already pounding on Cranbrook's door. But so far, school administrators are saying no thank you. They're just happy to have the kids home safe and sound. Roger Weber for NBC News in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. For days, the search for those Cranbrook Kingsford students and their leaders dominated our news reports. So tonight, we hear their stories of survival as we make these kids our headliners of the week.
Friday night, we didn't think it was that bad. We thought maybe 1 or 2 inches of snow, you know, we'll hike in the morning. But then once we went to sleep and we woke up, it was 3 feet of snow. We were like, oh my God, what's going on?
We couldn't find our trail. So we thought we would just stay there for, you know, a day or two, and then they'd either realize we were missing when they came to pick us up, or we were supposed to come out and we weren't there, or we'd hike out ourselves.
For a while, they simply had to hunker down and wait any place they could find. A cave, a valley, even an abandoned road tunnel built into the side of a mountain. You sleep in the tunnel?
We slept in the tunnel, right in the middle of the tunnel. We had a pretty good wind moving through there. We had quite low temperatures, so what we did is all 16 of us, there were 8 in each of these groups, had basically slept head to head like this, squished a lot like sardines.
So we'll start kind of a grid search after that.
As the hours wore on and the snow kept piling up, rangers began to actively look for the campers. Fortunately, 2 groups of campers were able to hook up and help each other get out, reuniting a brother and sister in the process.
Our group hiked over, you know, because like our leader was really good about it, and he like thought that it'd be better if we joined, and so then we did.
Yeah, I knew thinking of her out there, and I was just hoping that we could somehow join groups, you know. And then they they came, and that was just, and I saw her come with the whole group, you know. They just came hiking in the group, and we had already set up a camp, and we saw them, and I was overwhelmed.
So I just took my group, met up with them. We worked extremely well as a team, and together we were able to get 18 students out of the woods safely.
But it wouldn't be as easy for some of the Cranbrook hikers. Military helicopters scoured the mountains looking for any sign of the remaining campers. Eventually, that search paid off. Describe the rescue. What did it feel like when you saw that helicopter?
We didn't think like a helicopter was gonna come, and so after we did that, then all of a sudden it came back and like everything was blowing everywhere. The tarp flew off, and the guy came down. He was really cool. He was saying, "Don't try to save your sleeping bags and stuff, because what's important was your life."
The hard part of the ordeal was over.
Private school has students from all over the United States, all over the world. In fact, this year there are students from 19 states and 19 countries, and this is the 24th year for the school's Wilderness Expedition program, which is offered mostly to sophomores. The program is not just designed to teach survival skills, it's also meant to help students form a bond with each other and to give them a personal test before they make the transition to adulthood. This year, however, the test has been much tougher than anyone could have anticipated.